Today, I want to talk to you about losing your shit in relationships and how we can make our relationships stronger moving forward. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Self-Care Audio Files with me, Yvonne. Our mind, body, and spirit need to be healthy in order for us to thrive. In our changing world, this has never been more important. The Self-Care Audio Files is the place to come for real stories, powerful self-care practices, and anything that will help you cope in today's crazy world. Okay, I know and you know that divorce rates are super high, but here are some interesting stats for you. 41% of first marriages end in divorce. 60% of second marriages end in divorce, and 73% of third marriages end in divorce. So what does this tell us? It tells us make your first marriage work, because it ain't gonna get better. There are 9 divorces in the time it takes a couple getting married to say their wedding vows. 9 divorces while they're saying their vows. Yeah, so we all know that making a marriage work and making a relationship last is difficult. The odds are against us, especially after our first marriage. The Department of Psychology of the University of Denver did a study in 2013 about the reasons for getting a divorce. So the top 3 reasons for getting a divorce is lack of commitment, infidelity, and conflict and arguing. And the last point, conflict and arguing, is what I'm going to focus on today. So a couple of days ago, I had an argument with my partner, Brian, and I had a major reaction. Yeah, so this argument started, it was like any other day. The sun was shining, it was beautiful outside, it was the weekend, and I wanted to go for a walk. And I asked Brian if he wanted to join me on the walk, and he did. So we were going to go out for a nice winter walk. So I had my coat on, and I was ready to go. And he starts talking about something that's irritating him. And so he was talking, and I was listening, and I was doing my best to be there for him and support him. But I also really wanted to go outside, and I could see, it was getting later in the day, and I really wanted to get some sunlight. I already had my winter coat on, so I was getting hot. I was like, all right, is that good? Can we end this conversation now? I'd really like to go for a walk. And he kept going, and I started noticing I was getting frustrated because I wanted to go. And then finally it was like, all right, so let's go. And so I went outside and put my shoes on. And then all of a sudden he says, I'm not going to go for the walk. And I lost it. I literally felt the rage crawl up like my stomach and just like come through my chest and through my throat and out my mouth. And I just yelled at him, and I'm sure there was a couple F-bombs that I used, and I was just so mad that after all that, and then he can't even have the decency to go on a walk together. And I left, and while I was walking, I was so angry, and I was just cursing him like out loud and in my head, and I got to the point where I had tears in my eyes. And I just wanted to hit something and like flail my arms and whatever. But apparently you got to be a decent citizen and not do that in public. It'd be great if I was a child. I could do that in public. Hey, it's me just popping in for a small commercial during this podcast. If you're a single woman wanting to get back into the relationship game, but you're worried about attracting the wrong person and putting yourself out there in this online dating app, weird, cringy world, join my group program, Crazy Cat Ladies in Love, and get the relationship and love that you want and deserve. Head over to my website where you can add your name to the wait list, and I will let you know all the details. I can't wait to see you there. And now back to regular scheduled programming. Here's another divorce statistic for you. This is from an online survey done in the US. In regards to who is to blame for the divorce, 55% said it was their partner's fault. 34% said it was both of their fault. And 11% said it was their fault. It was my own fault. So isn't that interesting? We tend to blame our partners immediately. Anytime we have a reaction like we're angry, we're frustrated, we're sad, or whatever happens, we tend to blame our partners for those horrible feelings we're experiencing, because had they have just played along, that wouldn't have happened. And in the moment, it sure looks like that it's their fault. But what if we were to look at the role that we played in every single situation? And what if our goal was, how can I take responsibility for at least some of this? And how can I free myself and empower myself to move forward? So I was walking outside with that rage in me, and I told myself, okay, start breathing, like focus on your breath. And I started focusing on my breath. And I noticed I didn't want to break things anymore. And then I just asked myself, what is underneath this anger? So one thing about anger is always there to protect us from more vulnerable emotions. Anger is an easier emotion to feel than sadness or fear, confusion, all that. So I asked myself, what's underneath my anger? And immediately I knew it was sadness. And so I asked myself, what am I sad about? What about this made me sad? And I realized I was really sad that I didn't listen to my gut, my intuition. So when Brian was talking to me, I knew that whole conversation had nothing to do with me. It was his thing that he was working out loud. But I also knew it wasn't making me feel good, and I didn't need to listen to it. So my intuition was like, remove yourself, just go for the walk by yourself, but just get out of this conversation because it's not good for you. But I didn't. I stayed. I also felt sad because I thought I have to stay in that conversation because Brian needs me at this point, and I am a helper. If I help, I am loved. So if I'm not able to help, I am not loved. So in that moment where I wanted to remove myself from the situation, that part of me that so desperately wants to help and be loved and be thanked for helping stayed. But I was able to identify that, well, I wasn't angry, I was just really sad. At that point, we've come back to ourselves, and we're now supporting ourselves and are there for ourselves. We're no longer putting all of our energy and all of our focus on our partner with the blame. No, we're back to us, and we are figuring it out. We're calming ourselves, we're standing with ourselves, we're talking with ourselves. It's literally like being with a little kid when it's having a tantrum and then it starts to cry. Just being there for that little kid. That's what you're doing in that moment. By the time I got back to the condo, I was a lot calmer, but I still needed time to process what had happened. I was really exhausted at this point because so much emotion and such strong reactions had passed through my body. So I took a couple of hours just by myself. I actually ended up sanding this tabletop and listening to an audiobook while doing that. And I just needed time to come around again. And once I'd taken that time and Brian took his time, we came together and I explained from my point of view, this is what happened, this is why I reacted that way, this is what I'm going to do differently next time. And he explained his point of view and agreed that yes, the conversation had nothing to do with you. I just needed to, it was both of us failed at putting up boundaries. Brian never wanted to go on the walk in the first place. To him, he needs some alone time to recharge. He was unable to assert that to me. He was unable to create that boundary. And for me, I was unable to remove myself from that conversation. So also unable to assertively create this boundary and remove myself from the conversation. So we kind of both had a similar experience, and we both knew whatever reaction we had nothing to do with the other person. And from there, we were able to hug it out and high-five each other for the quick recovery. It's really important that when you're able to calm down and chat with your partner, to acknowledge that you guys got past it, to acknowledge that you figured it out, to acknowledge that we had this conversation and we did really good, because this shit is hard. So anytime Brian and I have an argument, the quicker we recover from it, like we always high five each other. Good recovery, good recovery. And it just makes it fun. It's like, oh, we did this really good this time. High five. Yeah, okay. Let's see how much better we can do next time. Maybe you had a similar experience where you just lost it and had a strong reaction to something your partner did or didn't do. And maybe you're still really angry, and maybe you're like, what a fucking douche, or whatever you're saying. Can you look at the anger you felt at the time, or that you're feeling right now? And can you figure out what is actually beneath that anger? And can you take some responsibility for your reaction? Now, it's not going to be easy to do that. It's the hardest thing when you're raging and when you're feeling everything and you are in it, to tell yourself to breathe, or to start being like, what's underneath my anger? Obviously, it's not that simple, but with practice, you can get there. Remember that any reaction you have in an argument with your loved ones is going to take a toll on your body. Give yourself rest, quiet time, whatever you need to do. If you want to have a relaxing bath, or just go to bed or take a nap, do whatever you need to do, but get some rest and allow your body and your mind to process what has happened and recover. Let's be part of the 59% of first marriages that last. If you enjoyed today's episode, join the conversation over on my Facebook group, Insane Calm Posse. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, go to my contact page on my website, or send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram. Talk to you soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.